Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the second shelf and to another review of a shortlisted book, shortlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction book. If you watched the previous reviews, I have made 3 already. I will leave links to those 3 down below, of course, but I'm reviewing all 6 of the shortlisted books for the Women's Prize for Fiction, and the winner will be announced on the 7th of July. And the last book I reviewed was Claire Fuller, Unsettled Ground, which is about a brother and a sister. And the next book this book that I review now is The Vanishing Half by Brit Bennett, which is about twins, female twins. So I thought that it's a good, comparison for these 2 books, even though it's about a completely different topic. But I felt it's unusual that you had so many siblings in books as you do have in the Women's Prize. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. So, Vanishing Half by Brit Bennett. Brit Bennett is a Black American author. And this is her second novel. Her debut novel came out 2 or 3 years ago, something like that, The Mothers, which I quite liked. I thought it was okay entertainment, nothing really deep but good entertainment. Again, if you don't want to have spoilers, there will be some spoilers as to the plot, as indicated in the show notes. So if you don't want to have any spoilers, except for the premise that this is a book about twins, then you should probably watch the video after you read the book. So this was not my cup of tea, really. I think I just have to accept the fact that commercial fiction and we don't really gel that well most of the time. But let's start at the beginning with the premise. Like I said, it's about twin sisters spanning from the late 1950s until the 1990s. The sisters are in 1954 when the plot starts. They are teenage girls, so they are born in around 1940-ish, something like that. And they live in quite a strange town. I think it's called Mallard, but it's not really important because it's a Black community, but the Black people are almost white in their skin color is so light that they could pass, quote unquote, for white people. And that is what the book is about. So you have the twin sisters, Stella and Desiree, and in 1954, they escape Mallard, go to the big city. They want to make a life of their own. And then the 2 sisters split. And what I mean by that is vanishing half. One sister vanishes. She just leaves the other one right there and then, and is never heard of again until much, much later in the book. And then we learn about what happened to her and why she left and what kind of life she led after she left. And the vanishing half, the vanishing sister, chooses a life of passing. If you're familiar with Nella Larson's book, Passing, about Black people who are light-skinned and who live a life as a white person, that's what one of the sisters does. She marries a white guy. She has a child, who's also very light-skinned. And the other sister, the one who is left behind, chooses the exact opposite life. She marries, or she has a relationship with a really, really dark-skinned Black man, and she has a child who is also really, really black-skinned. And the book opens when the woman who chose a life as a Black person in a Black community comes back to the hometown with her young daughter. And from there, slowly but surely, we learn, about the disappearance in the mid-1950s, about what happened to the sisters when they were still together, and then what happened to each of the 2 sisters. And of course, the stories, they start together, then they grow apart and they come back together again. Both of the original sisters have children, and through their two daughters, the story will end with a sort of a reunion kind of thing. I find the premise really, really fascinating. I think not only in this specific setting, like passing, I never knew this existed until a couple of years ago. And then I read a Larson's book about it. But it's such a, fascinating sounds positive, but it's such a weird thing that you would, pass as a person of a different race, if you want to call it that. So I thought that was fascinating, but more in general, the idea that you can actually reinvent yourself as a different person if you want to. And what that means, the pressure that it puts on you to keep up this appearance that you created. I thought that subject is really, really fascinating. But my main issue with the book is that I didn't find it. I found that this subject, this topic, was not explored in any depth. It was just like, okay, and then you have these twins and they're both light-skinned and one goes off and lives as a white woman and the other one, but there was nothing, there was no there other than this really fascinating premise. And I didn't like the plot. I thought it was, first of all, you heard me say that a lot of times when I talk about plot, it was extremely predictable. But that's okay for commercial fiction. You expect a certain kind of plot, and that's not my thing, but that's okay. But what I really don't like is when an author relies entirely on completely unbelievable coincidences in order to get the plot moving. That's just lazy plotting. And if I'm not in a sort of polite mood, I would say it's bad plotting. And that just doesn't work for me. I mean, the whole story that unfolds, how the two sisters will, come together again, and what role the two children play in this whole thing. I mean, I was reading this and okay, and now she meets such and such. Of course he has to. There is no reason. It's not like in a village, but you can picture a city like New York, and then you would meet the only other person who had, I don't know, glasses like this, just by chance. And then you realize, oh, you must be connected. No. This is just really, really lazy plotting, even for commercial fiction, and it didn't do enough for me, at least, with the really fascinating topic. So the first day, her debut book, I thought was okay, and in Goodreads terms, I gave that book back then 3 stars because it's a debut, and you shouldn't be too harsh, I felt, on a debut author. But this for me was a 2-star book. Okay, entertaining, but also annoying because of the plot thing and the coincidences of the plot. But I also know that I'm one of the very few people who didn't love this book. So I think it's a strong contender to win. But for me, it didn't work. Anyway, this was number 4 in the series of the 6 shortlisted books for the Women's Prize for Fiction. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. As always, I'm looking forward to your comments, and I'll see you all soon in the next one.